everybody, it's Kenny again, coming with you with a new uh, slasher movie, psychological horror movie. They say on IMDb it's a slasher movie, but I think a psychological horror movie should be uh, put there as well. It's from 1981 and it has a score of 6.7 on IMDb. So that's a really good score. It came out in the golden era of slashers. It's a confirmed slasher, but I'm gonna talk about that soon. So first the cast. You got Susan Terrell, who plays a beautiful Aunt Cheryl. Bo Svensson, Lieutenant Carlson, who Bo Svensson is a big, intimidating guy who plays the most asshole, racist, douchebag, homophobic guy you can, corrupt guy you can have. He comes to the station with his dog, a German Shepherd. It wouldn't amaze me. He has a complete Hitler collection at home, and he's so good, Bo Svensson, in this role that you believe that he's all what I just said. That he's that, but he's just a good actor. Then we have a few side characters. Yeah, Danny McNichols, I believe his name was, played by Billy. The Cheryl is the um, guardian of Billy because Billy. It's already a little bit of a spoiler. In the beginning of the movie, um, Billy is given to the aunt Cheryl, and her sister and her husband, they go for a ride. Now she's looking weird. She's smiling, but smiling sinister. Now apparently their brakes don't work, and they fly right into a truck with all these logs. And in fact, the goriest scene of the entire movie you get in the first 5 minutes is basically a log coming through the the window, gets to see the head of the guy just cracking open and blood squirting on the wife next to him, and then she tries to get out, covered with blood, but one of the car is kept intact by one of the beams. One of the beams goes loose, and she goes into a gorge, and the car explodes. So Cheryl becomes the guardian of Billy, which she always wanted. She always wanted a son, and I can already spoil that she had a boyfriend that she gave him a baby, but it was a miscarriage, a baby that died with birth, and basically that's something for later. Now this movie, you've got Julia is the girlfriend of Billy. Now you got Sergeant Cook, who is basically the second in command under Carlson, but he's more of a correct cop. He wants to research the what's really happened, but this comes later. Then Bill Paxton is even in this role, in a very early role. It's his first role, and he actually applied for the role of Billy, but because of the Billy actor McNicholson had more roles behind him, and I saw his movies. I don't know what the fuck stupid TV series and things like that, but he did have more experience, and Bill Paxton didn't have experience, so he plays a guy named Eddie. He's a basketball, so Billy's a basketball player, a good one, and Eddie's in his team, but he's kind of, envies him, and yeah, he's also a bully against him, and this and that, and they fight at some point. But okay, and then I have Tom Landis, their coach. Now okay, apparently a scout from Denver is coming to the game. Now this is really good for Billy because he's a really good basketball player and he can get a full scholarship to the University of Denver, also where Julia is going. Now, Cheryl really doesn't want that. She's getting angry and she's getting all unhinged and she slaps him in the face and then going upstairs. And then the day after that, she gives him his birthday and then she gives him a card and then P.S. Hope you get a scholarship and all that shit. But then when it's all said and done, she basically poisons Billy. She gives him a drink before he goes to the game, that important game, and she poisons him with sort of a sleeping medicine that he get really drowsy, and of course he falls on the ground and he loses his scholarship, and that's what Cheryl always wanted. Now, at some point, Cheryl is horny as a fucking beaver and she wants to fuck, and she calls the cable guy. Now, the cable guy is coming and there was something wrong, but Cheryl is standing behind him and she made herself up, looking sexy and all that. She's basically almost showing her vag, and the guy's no, sorry, you have the wrong idea. And he wants to get the fuck out of there. Now at some point she just pig, and she takes a kitchen knife, stabs him in the neck, a few times. Billy sees this, comes in, takes her off the guy, takes the knife. Now Margie is a friend of her. Margie and Frank is a couple, a friendly couple of her. They come in from the other side. They see Cheryl crying and Billy holding a knife. Now the police is coming. Now here is Lieutenant Carlson and Sergeant Cook. Now Sergeant Cook is he wants to say things. He's immediately shut down by Carlson. Now Carlson, he's like, I don't believe shit about this rape. You killed him, right, Billy? You killed him. Now go, come here. Turn around. And turn around again. You killed him, right? He's really pushing them. Then apparently he found a ring on the guy's finger, and because he doesn't believe because Cheryl tries to sell it as a rape, but her clothes weren't torn. Billy was holding the knife, and the fact he was a ring, and in that ring there were initials of a guy. So Tom Landis, the basketball coach, apparently they're both, the dead guy and the coach is gay. They were boyfriends. Now he calls it, and I'm not calling that. So he goes to Billy and Cheryl again, and he's constantly harassing them and said, did you know that the guy that was killed there was a fag? You know that was a fag? And he's like, and then it goes to Bill, are you a fag? And he's like really going like that, and he's like, I said, no, get the fuck out of here, get away. And then he eventually wants to throw the ball at him, and he says, "If you do that, son, I'll break your arm." He's like, "This it's a fucked up guy." He's really, but he's intimidating. He's always standing above his big, large Bo Svensson. He's a large dude, man. It's an intimidating guy. Then, yeah, and then he goes to the coach, and what he does is he says he found this ring, and this that's you, right? The other one in the description. He says, "Yeah. What now? What now? Either you resign, or there's gonna be a little lynching party." Yeah, so that's if you fucking fag, like that, and he goes away, and he's like, oh, he wants to throw that ball again, and he's okay. He has to resign because he has apparently that being a fag in that era or in that state is basically a sin. Uh, Even Cheryl says that homosexuals are disease and things like that, deviants and things like that. Uh, Now, Sergeant Cook starts to go in a little bit in the files of, and he said apparently the kids, in the beginning, the kids' parents, the rumors are that the brakes were tampered with, and that Cheryl, the aunt, has a few weird occasions from neighbors that she's not really okay in the head, and he's standing in the office of Carlson while he's interviewing a Mexican guy with a gun in his mouth, basically a gun in his mouth. He's got this big Colt Python Magnum, and he's saying, "Get the fuck out of here, Cook. Even better, take a fucking vacation," because he doesn't want to get out that fact story. Okay, he wants to keep for some reason. Okay, now this movie basically, and that's why I say it's a slasher movie. Okay, the beginning of the movie, the guy gets killed. Now that's the first part. The second part, it's a slow build, but what it does is the movie, the Cheryl gets more unhinged by the minute, by the minute, by the minute, and the second part she gets more unhinged and more creepy and more eerie and more demanding of Billy. And there is a moment when Billy is having sex with Julia in his bed, and Cheryl comes home, and she kicks the door in of Billy's room, and she said, "You slut," and she takes her by the hair and throws her out and things like that. "I want to never see her again, slut." And then she bumps into Sergeant Cook. He wanted to interrogate Cheryl, but he didn't have success before. And he said that you had the walk of shame, which means you were caught doing sex. Yeah, why do you say that? And he says that's good for Bill. That's good for Billy, because then the homosexual, the fact that Carlson thinks he's a fag is off the table now. So Cook is basically trying to do everything in his power that Carlson is wrong, and everybody in this police station. He's the lieutenant, so he's almost like the captain. Is the biggest. He's the commander and he's the chief, But the lieutenant is second in command and sergeant. But the entire police station is scared of Carlson. He can do fucked up things. He's big. He comes with his fucking German Shepherd on a chain. He comes to, it's a fucked up guy. Now, like I said, more and more unhinged. And after that occasion that he finds Billy having sex with his girlfriend, she starts to cut her hair extremely short. It does it look it's you know the hair is going all over the place and it's short. She looks fucking creepy. She's she starts to walk like a hunchback like this with her eyes constantly like this, like she's on an LSD or something. She's and she's getting more and more eerie, and now it's going to go in spoiler territory. So for the people who want to stay, the third half is going more in the slasher territory. So if you want to stay, I can recommend this movie. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 because there are a few things in this movie, uh, practical effect wise, when in the slasher realm of this movie, that I thought was that could have been better, and yeah, that could have been better. And what's the part? And that's it only gets for me it gets 6.5, so it's 6.7 on IMDb. It's those practical effects, so 0.2 points less. Not big, but it's good. It's a good movie. You should watch it. I can tell you this already. It's like it reminds me of Misery with Kathy Bates and I think James Caan, right? The writer, where she gets completely unhinged at some point and breaks his legs and try to keep him there. And then the third part, you get Friday the 13th part 1, Betsy Palmer, Pamela Voorhees. She becomes this Pamela Voorhees like character with screaming and with white eyes and with a machete and fucking killing people. She starts off by uh, keep drugging Billy, and he doesn't want to anymore, and she's really cramming it in. And then Marge is in the house, and she knows. I mean, she goes after Marge. She wants to kill Marge. She takes a machete. She's doing this weird thing where Marge is like, okay, she's trying to get away, but Frank, her husband, wasn't supposed. She had to call him, but Cheryl says, "Don't call him. Just take an umbrella and go." But she knows she didn't go. She saw her sneaking around, and eventually, she wants to. I mean, there is before that. Sorry, I'm all going all over the place. I have to say, before that happened, Julia comes back, the girlfriend, and she was to be a. She had to keep her busy that Billy could go to a box because in that box there was valuable information about his parents. Now, of course, Cheryl doesn't want Julia in her house, and she takes a stake and a hammer to make it tender, and she starts to hammer it like harder and harder when Julia is talking, and eventually she hits Julia on the head, and she puts her in a room underneath where she's always going, and she's talking to this picture, which which is a guy, and there is a body on a bed, a rotten body, a skeleton, and apparently the guy, and Billy knows this, the guy was her boyfriend, and she had a baby, like I said, a miscarriage, and she kept the baby on what was it, in a jar, and apparently, and she goes to Billy, and she eventually she says what she's done. She cut the brakes and this and that, So Billy knows what he's done now, and I mean, at this point on, okay, Billy, but she takes him and because he's looking for Julia, and she takes him and drugs him again, and eventually Marge comes in, and Marge gets to know that the mom of Julia calls her, and she said, I didn't see her, and I don't care, both. And Marge says, but you said you did see her. Go away, Marge, she says. And then those eyes, she, okay, she goes away, scared. She takes a fucking machete. She goes after Marge, and she's doing. Then we get to this weird sound that I said in the bushes. Marge is going through the bushes. She's like, it's raining like hell, and you hear her. She's doing this sound, and then she's coming out of the bush like this with a machete, and she just slashes her open. But like I said, it's just a slash, and you see some blood like that, and she's dead. Then, of course, Julia escaped the basement. She got in a shed outside, and then Sergeant Cook arrives. Now, Cheryl goes into the shed where Julia is. You says, you slut. And then she hides, and instead of Julia saying that she's there back in the she's in the corner, no, she waits until he puts on the light, and when she puts, yeah, so he puts on the light, she hacks his hand off, and that's where it gets 0.2 points less for me, because there's no blood. It's just, it looked fake. It looked really fake. And then she slashes him in the neck. You don't see it. You just see him with his last hand holding his neck like that, and he falls down. So Julia takes a machete. Eventually she takes an axe on the wall, and they have a little brawl in the pool, and and at some point she takes Julia, she overcomes Julia, hits her with a brick multiple times, and then you've got this. So Billy is trying to get to the phone. He's drowsy from all the fucking medicine sleeping medicine he's given. He's trying to call the coach, because he said before he had to go home, you can always call me. And she takes in the phone and says, who are you supposed to call? She starts strangling Billy, and eventually says, are you gonna betray me? Yes or no? He says no. She lets him loose, and then, yeah, I don't believe you, fucking shit. She starts slapping him. Eventually he takes this small knife. He puts it in her shoulder. She goes like this. Then he calls the coach, and he says, can you come over? I think my mom's dead. I think my aunt's dead. Okay, I'll come over. And then eventually she stands up, takes the knife out of her shoulder, starts slashing him everywhere, in his neck, on his arm. But it's not, you see the blood, the blood from the slashings, but it's not. And it's not crazy that I just want to see explicit gore, but that's just the community of horror fans. We want to see explicit gore, cuts, practical effects, real cuts. You just see, like, it's like the knife had paint in it, and just then he kicks her to the chair, and she's coming like with the knife, just like Pamela Voorhees does, with the knife. And he stabs her with a fire poker through her chest, and she's dead. Now, of course, what happens is Carlson comes to the scene. They know that Cook is dead, Sergeant Cook, and and a woman named Marge, and he's feeling the pulse of Marge, and he goes in, and he finds a perfect opportunity. He takes his gun out. Yes, yo, yes, Billy. Now I've got you. So the coach stands before him. You are a fucking asshole, Carlson, and he pistol whips him, and then get out of the way, fag. Now you're gonna die. You ready? Now a cop comes in with Julia still alive, and Julia says, "He didn't do it. He didn't do it. Go to the basement. There is a body there. She didn't. She killed everybody." And the police officer, okay, shouldn't we go to? Okay, Carlson says, "I don't care. I don't give a shit. Get her to a medical." The police officer said, "Shouldn't we go to the basement for? I don't give a shit about the basement. Get her out of here." And he's like, he knows what's gonna happen. He knows that he's gonna kill Billy and probably the coach too. What in his head is two fags, right? So he tries to shoot him. Eventually, the coach can disarm him, but then he takes him for a beating, and he takes him like this. And eventually, Billy gets the gun, blasts him to smithereens because it's a Magnum. It's like it's going to like he's blasted to smithereens. The other cop comes in with his gun pointed. He immediately loses his gun and says, the cop immediately goes, and Julia's with him. You go to him, and he puts his gun away because he knew that Carlson was a fucking corrupt asshole. I mean, this Bo Svensson really played the role so good that even his own police force knew what a fucking corrupt asshole he was. I mean, it's really good. It's really good. You start to hate him, but that's his role, right? Now, there are a few facts. Apparently, Susan Terrell, who plays Cheryl, didn't watch the movie until 2008 during an interview, and then because she thought it was awful, and then seeing it, she found it a good movie. And like I said, it's Misery first and the second half, and then you get Friday the 13th Part 1, Pamela Voorhees. Those two movies. That's the third part. That's basically the movie. And like I said, that's the only slasher bit. The rest is unhinged, crazy bitch. Yes. Now, also Julia, that's where the girlfriend. So Billy is played as a 17-year-old boy. Now he was really close to that age, so they did use a 20-year-old boy, which isn't too old to play a high school student. His last year. But she was apparently 10 years older than him, so she was 30, Julia. And they have this sexy, and you can see her boobs. Okay, she was apparently 10 years older. And I actually wouldn't see that because she looks very young. She looks 20. So kudos on looking so young. And then apparently this movie also came on the infamous Video Nasties list. I don't know why, because there's not a lot of gore. Okay, you see the hand chopping off, but it's so fake and you don't see a drop of blood. If you have in all movies, if a hand is cut off, you see squirting out blood, usually to an extent that it's funny almost, but in this case it's not gory. Maybe because of the language, I don't know. The fag and things like that, and homophobic language, maybe. But it's a good movie. I will recommend it. Really recommend. I give it a 6.5 just because of the practical effects weren't the best, and the gore was a little bit of a letdown. And it didn't bother me that it was only the third half that it was a slasher part, because I do like a little bit different movies, horror movies, like psychological horror movies. I do like them. Like Misery is a psychological horror movie, basically. So no, I can't say 6.5. Go watch it, and I think you enjoy it.